You live, Nicholas?
I don't think so.
Oh God, this thing never works, does it?
Nope, we're just gonna
Jeez
do it. Just you and
Louise.
me. Nothing.
Well,
Just you and me hanging out. Just me. That's all this show is, Joe. It's just you and me bullshitting anyway. So
that's
shouldn't
right.
matter if the camera's rolling or not. Lord knows you want to
I
talk to me once a week, every week, at least via Zoom call, right?
It's the only way I can get people to talk with me. I I gotta tell you, Nicholas, I made the biggest culinary blunder of my fucking lifetime. And
Really?
I'm so pissed because there's nothing I love more than Taco Tuesdays.
Oh boy, you and
So
LeBron.
yeah, me and LeBron, one and the same. Uh
Big comics guy.
yeah, and he was reading Mario Puzo's The Godfather. Uh, just watch the fucking movie, you dipshit. Um, anyways, I had run out of my favorite taco seasoning, and I forgot to buy more at the grocery store. So in the spice cabinet, Nicholas, I found some just generic taco seasoning that I had. So I am I you know I know how much of the old taco seasoning I use. I have a little ramekin. I put X amount in it, and that goes over the pound of ground turkey, and it is perfect. So I took the taco seasoning that I had, and I said, I'll use the same amount. Should be the same, right? Right? Same.
Hmm.
No, 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 no. Now, thankfully, I typically mix it all together, but because I didn't have the original stuff, when I went to make Swaggins tacos, I pulled out a section of ground turkey that was just seasoned with salt and set it aside.
Okay.
I then make the tacos. I make my tacos. I go to eat my tacos, and it was inedible. I ate them because I wasn't gonna just let it go to waste, but it was some of the most disgusting, overly seasoned food I've ever cooked and consumed, Nicholas. So I'm cranky. I
I
am
don't even
cranky
know you anymore, dude. That's just
because
embarrassing.
and so I was like, okay, let me try and brighten it up. I used some very fruit forward hot sauce, that was bright, that had a lot of citrus, had a lot of pineapple in it, a lot of kick. I added the pickled jalapenos I thought would brighten it up. Maybe that'll take away some of the salt. And nope, 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 nope. So that is your great British fuck off by the doc for this week. It was nice talking to everybody, and we will return next week with more culinary catastrophes. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all ages, TLDR Studios proudly presents to you the greatest, and I mean the greatest podcasting team in the world. He is the comic book writer, Nick Friar. I'm your friendly neighborhood backcracker, Dr. Joe, who is in no way, shape, or form a cook. It just, and together we are the TLDR Comic Book Club, baby. That's how pissed off I am that I fucked up my dinner, Nicholas.
I I think you should keep that in the intro at all times. Totally fucking works. Oh my god! But you may not be living up to the greatest chef in your household of late. May not be living up to that title, but we are living up to our name as the greatest podcasting team in the world because Joe, we have been extremely fucking busy. Because obviously, you all know we're always doing what's new. We always say we're going to do main lines. We never fucking do main lines because we're always busy trying to come together with Friar side chats for you guys. Even in those quiet moments where it's like, oh, they haven't had one in a second or whatever. Just don't blink. Make sure you subscribe to one of the audio channels. Otherwise, they're going to fucking pass you by. Because those are the only places you're going to find our conversations with creators across the industry, our Friar side chats. We have brought you Anthony Cleveland and Alex Cormack to talk about Buried long, long ago, a fucking terrifying horror story that's inspired by real life events. And we had such a great time chatting with Anthony, chatting with Alex Cormack, who obviously we love Alex's art style. And Anthony, some of his horror stuff, man, has been really impressive. We're going to be looking out for his stuff more and more. And then right after that, we have a one Scott Snyder, who some people may or may not have heard of at some point. We've had him on the show a time or two or five to talk about absolute Batman. And holy shit, Joe, it was you and I want to be respectful of spoilers. that's always been a thing that I cared about most. Like, there's so much else to talk about with any story, with any issue of a book beyond just the events that take place. Like you like there's like space to talk. Like you and I talk about emotions of books all the time, and that's why you fucking read stuff like fictional stuff to experience different emotions and cool shit and whatnot. But sometimes it's fun to dig into spoilers. It's fun to hear that shit every once in a while. And holy shit, dude, Scott love to spoil his own stuff. My God, but he does a really good job of like giving you a lot, but then still not giving you what you're going to see on the pages too.
Well, he's the writer, baby. He's the creator. He wants to spoil it. Hey, that's
100%.
spoil away, baby.
Your
Spoil.
thing.
It's one thing if I fuck it up.
Very true.
It's another if he's just like, you know what? No, it's my story. I don't care. Here's all the deets, baby. And you can have all the information and still be blown away. You know, Absolute Batman to me just keeps getting better and better and better. We talked about this the other week where we just said they're all on level footing now. You know, the Absolute books, and we get another one this week that we're gonna dive into that was excellent, written by one of my favorite writers. But I did some quick math. I know that's a dangerous thing for me to do.
Either of us. So, I mean, you're probably right. Whatever you say, I try. I'm not gonna refute it.
Well, please do. We're 12 weeks. We're 12 weeks into the year, Nicholas.
Oh, okay.
I believe, right? Okay. We've now completed 7 Friarside chats. I believe we've done 3 solicits, 1 floppies, which leaves we've done 1 mainline so far.
Floppies was the end of last year. Floppies was in calendar 2024.
Was it in Okay, so that's why I said please refute me. I couldn't remember if we did it at the very end of December or if we did it in the beginning of January. But like we've done what, 1 mainline?
I think
so
that's
far?
Correct. I think that's right.
Right?
Yeah, I'm
so
pretty sure
like
1 mainline.
Yeah, we're strictly an interview podcast now.
We did 1 mainline. We stopped at 107, and we have not done anything. Yep. Nope. Yeah, we haven't done a mainline there. And for those who are our loyal listeners, keeping score at home, the week where we just did a what's new and we didn't have an interview come out, this was the interview that we were doing, the Scott Snyder chat. We scheduled stuff out with him. Yeah, but yes, you're right. No, it's we're on pace. But this happened to us. I feel like this happens to us sometimes. We get crazy busy at the beginning of the year from an interview standpoint, and then you and I will just be like, okay, like we got to like review some books here and there. But I will say we don't have anything else. Well, we do have one other thing that's about to come out that we'll tell you guys about in a second. But after that Friarside chat, we have a couple others that you and I want to do, but I hate to say we're not going to have any more, but we always invariably walk into a couple other.
Well, ones. I tell you what, the chat that we were about to disclose came out of the ether.
Yes,
right.
It did. Yep.
Right.
100%.
So.
Yep. Yeah. You never know. But when I saw that Chris Condon was doing a book with Mad Cave Studios, I was like, we gotta get him on the show. We got the first issue of the book. You read it before I did. Fucking loved it. It was really good. And I was like, we got a lot that we can talk to this guy about. And we had a great fucking time. We're basically now you guys are getting Absolute Batman. Like you're hearing from the writer of that series from us 1 week, and then the next week you're hearing from the Ultimate Wolverine writer the following week. It's just like you and I, like obviously we're talking a ton about the Mad Cave book. That's what we spoke about primarily. But just to have, when we talk about the different things that we've done and this kind of stuff you and I have tried to execute from like a creative standpoint with the interviews that we're doing, that's one that you and I didn't think of that at all. It just kind of fell into our lap.
Nicholas, we talked to the writer of that Texas Blood and didn't even fucking talk about it.
Yep.
Which is absolutely wild. He did off air give us some tidbits about what to expect next, but I mean, far down below, right?
Yes.
Excellent book. I think people are going to absolutely love it. Ultimate Wolverine, the first 2 issues are out. If you haven't read that, go fucking do it. It is excellent. He's just a great writer. And he's got a lot more stuff coming out this year that sounds really, really exciting. So when that interview drops, when that chat drops, I highly recommend people give it a listen. Because he's a great storyteller. He's a great person to chat with. I may have made an inappropriate joke
You did. It was creative though. I got to give you that. Like it was very much like I'm like Jesus Christ, but at the same time, like, that was pretty. That was good. That was an interesting twist. But also, holy shit. But yeah, we didn't get to talk about that Texas Blood, Chris Condon. But I do think there's a chance that we talk to him again this year, just from some of the stuff that he disclosed to us and how the conversation went. So hopefully we can circle back with him a little bit later in the year about some other work that he has, going on behind the scenes that are in the hopper, some of which may or may not be that Texas Blood. But that's a conversation for another day. You guys are going to hear that on Monday. It's going to be delivered right to your listening device. So make sure if you're following us over on Blue Sky, maybe you're catching us on our YouTube channel, make sure if you want to hear those Friar Side chats, which quite honestly, are probably our favorite thing that Joe and I do at this point on the show. And obviously we do it a ton. That's the only way you're going to get them is through our audio channel. So Apple, Spotify, Geeks Worldwide Radio, Amazon, Audible, remembered it this week. Make sure that you're subscribed on one of those channels. And then when you subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review. It's going to really help us out a lot. And if you leave anything less than 5, you're going to learn the real meaning of Backcracker and you're going to ruin his fucking weekend and mine. So don't ruin my fucking weekend. But anyways, nothing for us to catch up on. A fuck ton of shit to get to in the way of new books this week, Joe. There's a lot of stuff that we talked about. I think the prior week was lighter for us in terms of the books that were coming out, but this week there was a ton of shit to get through. I mean, there's so much Marvel stuff, and I'm not even talking about some of my Marvel books this week. But why don't you take us through that?
Yeah, I don't think there's a Marvel book here that I'm reading this week. But from Marvel Comics for the week of March 19th, 2025, we have Ultimate X-Men issue 13, Ultimate Black Panther issue 14, Miles Morales Spider-Man issue 31, The Avengers issue 24, One World Under Doom issue 2, Exceptional X-Men issue 7, X-Force issue 9, Psylocke issue 5, Magic issue 3, Deadpool Wolverine issue 3, Eddie Brock Carnage issue 2, Daredevil Unleash Hell issue 3, TVA issue 4, Werewolf by Night issue 8, Cable Love and Chrome issue 3, Sam Wilson Captain America issue 3, and New Champions issue 3.
So you are reading Deadpool Wolverine. That's obviously the Benjamin Percy series. So you have one.
Oh, yes.
But of those, Magic was my favorite issue. That's been really, really fucking good. I love what's going on in that series, and I think the third issue. I think each issue's been better than the next. Certainly, the third issue is the best issue of the series so far. From DC, we got Detective Comics 1095, Nightwing 124, Batman Superman World's Finest issue 37, Titans issue 21, Batman and Robin Year 1, The New Gods issue 4, Catwoman 74, Zatanna issue 2, The Question All Along the Watchtower issue 5, Superman The Last Days of Lex Luthor issue 2, Challengers of the Unknown issue 4, Batman Wayne Family Adventures issue 156, DC Sonic the Hedgehog issue 1, and then we got a couple of absolute titles. Obviously we've talked a lot about Absolute Batman. Obviously just did a whole conversation with Scott about it, touched on issue 6 in varying capacities. I just wanted to say, Joe, that I'm kind of, I don't know how we do this, but I thought of an idea as we were getting ready. Like, I almost feel like we should do, I don't know. The idea in my head is like doing a poll about the 2 like action moments that we loved in Absolute Batman issue 6. There's a certain thing that, that is one of them. And then there's another thing that, that, well, I don't want to give my hand, but I almost want to ask people, like, maybe not ask them what our favorites are, but maybe we ask them like at some point next week or something, like after the issue's been out, people have had time to read it. Like, what was your favorite thing from Batman issue 6? Was it the yeet or the thing that I have cited that I fucking loved? Because those, like, it's to have those 2 fucking things happen in that issue, which is so banana.
You're talking about the bat suit, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's one of those is just so badass. And the other one is so fucking funny.
Yeah.
I literally, no joke, no hyperbole, laughed out loud. Like it's one of those,
Yep.
As I read it, it was so effing good. Yeet!
Yep.
It still cracks me up, but
Fucking wild. It was such a fun, vicious, like we've been talking about it for a while. Like each issue is better than the next with Absolute Batman. And I'm wondering if we're gonna get that with Absolute Flash. The first issue of that is out this week. Jeff Lemire and Nick Robles is the artist on this series, and your guy Jeff Lemire writing it. What did you think of the first issue?
well, when we chatted with Scott Snyder, one of the things he said was, people reading the Flash, they're gonna get a real like you're gonna start absolute fresh, right? There's no Speed Force, there's no because between Wally West and Barry Allen, there's so much history there. There's so much, with those characters. So when you read Absolute Flash, you're introduced to Wally West right off the rip. You get introduced, to Barry Allen, and we've talked about how the Absolute Universe has just been so refreshing because they take characters that we know and love, but they flip them on their head, so they're familiar but different, right? And I absolutely love this first issue, right? Jeff Lemire is such a great writer, and the way he writes his characters, he really humanizes them, right? He really makes them relatable. And especially it's difficult to do when you're talking about people with superpowers, right? Superheroes. And Wally West is such a relatable character in this issue. He's scared, he's angry, he's lonely, and you just get this really great backstory that without a lot of information, right? He's an army brat. He gets bounced around, so he doesn't have a lot of friends, and it kind of bounces around between present day, 2 days before, 1 week, that kind of stuff. It bounces around a little bit in that way, and it's just done so well. So anybody who's been enjoying the Absolute Universe is gonna love the next wave of Absolute titles, because I think Absolute Flash absolutely nailed it. You've got that, I would sort of put this on the vibe of at least artistically, sort of with Absolute Superman, right? It's
Yes.
just got that same just sort of
Energy.
I don't know exactly, right? With Absolute Wonder Woman, you've got Hayden Sherman, very distinct art style. It's got that sort of very gothic, that very mythology kind of feel to it. Absolute Batman's got more of a noir, almost sci-fi kind of feel to it. So Absolute Flash and Ultimate Superman sort of have the same sort of wavelength to it, and I love that. And the art's fantastic, the storytelling's fantastic. So I think people are going to absolutely love Absolute Flash.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this first issue. Man, the way they established Wally West, and as Scott kind of told us, and as you've touched on, we're not dealing with this whole history of the Flash, of the Speed Force. We are dealing with Wally West figuring out what the shit has happened to me. He has no frame of reference, and not only is that interesting because he's a kid, but just the other absolute superheroes that we've met so far between Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, they're all adults. They're established in varying ways within the Absolute Universe, but they're all adults dealing with their stuff. It feels like Superman might be the youngest of the bunch, but either way, none of them are as young as Wally West, and it's very interesting, having that different addition to the mix, and just I think that makes this, as much as the other three are very accessible, this is the most accessible book so far, but from what we've seen from the Absolute Universe over at DC. So yeah, it was a really nice change of pace in some ways, but also it's just more of the same in a positive way of you're reimagining, you're changing a lot. There's still a familiarity, but so much has changed as well. So no surprise that Jeff Lemire is doing a great job, of course, but still we talk about it with Absolute, we talk about it with the Ultimate Universe too. Just a lot of good stuff going on right now between the big two and their Ultimate Universes.
All right, from Boom Boom Studios, we have Power Rangers Prime issue 5, The Creeping Below issue 3, The Conclusion to Lawful issue 8. What a beautiful series that has been. When I Lay My Vengeance Upon the oh boy, Nicholas, did you read that
So
one?
good. So
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
excellent, excellent, excellent. And then we have Mouse Guard, Dawn of the Black Axe, issue 1. And then a number 1, Nicholas, another number 1 that we'd like to discuss. This one from friend of the show, Dan Panosian, with art by Alessio Avallone. And that is the long anticipated The Last Boy, issue 1, which I got to tell you, Nicholas, I absolutely loved. I've been waiting for this book since it was announced. Was really hoping we'd get Dan on, hoping we can still get Dan on to discuss this book. We just had so much unfold prior to, but I've always loved the Peter Pan story. You know, Hook was one of my favorite movies as a kid, but I love the premise because, you know, the story of Peter Pan is the boy who refuses to grow up, right? Well, this is sort of like a Peter Pan who is A, refused to grow up, but B, is like everything else around him has moved on, but him, and he's a fish out of water in his own world. And I love that idea. And it was just so well done because everyone's like, no, dude, bro, like we've all moved on, right?
Yeah.
Shit ain't the same no more. And I love that twist to it, the stuff with Tiger Lily and Captain Hook and all that. I thought it was fantastic.
It is fantastic. You're absolutely right. Like in on that note, like where I've kind of viewed it is like Dan found a way to provide nostalgia and also comment on that subject with this story as well. And I was really impressed by that because I feel like that's not an easy thing to do. I think we see a lot of times stuff will provide a level of nostalgia. It's supposed to be of a certain era and so on. And then, but then there's other stuff like we're picking at nostalgia, but to talk about it and provide it at the same time to me is while it's like a simple statement, I feel like it's a complex task to kind of take on. And this really did like it hit just right. I could not be more pleased with the way this started. And obviously we got stuff you're talking all about Peter Pan, but there's stuff going on with Wendy too that I'm very interested in as well. But like this, like that, there's two different plots that are going on. I'm sure they'll come together in some capacity. But you know, Alicio Lavone's artwork, his texture is great. It really fits well for again the vibe that you're trying to get with this story. And then on top of all that, like you have this cliffhanger that happens at the end of the issue. We're not going to talk about it, but again, I love it when it's like that's a really good cliffhanger. That's not the big thing that I'm taking away from this story. Like there's so much more that happened and went on that I'm going to think about heading into issue 2. So really great stuff from Dan Panosian and Alicio Avallone. From Dark Horse, we got Star Wars: The High Republic Adventures, issue 16. Those Not Afraid, issue 3, which again, we're not talking about it at length on this show, like every time it comes out, but we had a conversation with Kyle Starks a while back. Really enjoyed the series. We've gotten a look at all 4 issues of this thing. We fucking loved it. So if you're at all like have been debating about getting in on those Not Afraid from Dark Horse, don't like it's been like don't think twice about it. Go get it, pick it up. We absolutely loved it. The Serpent in the Garden, Ed Gray and the Last Battle for England, issue 3. Shadow of the Golden Crane, issue 2. Welcome to Maynard, issue 4. Christmas 365, issue 4. Assassin's Apprentice 3, issue 4. You Never Heard of Me, issue 3. And Who Are the Power Pals, issue 1, which I actually did. I forgot to mark this down, but I did check this one out. It is definitely a comedy and a commentary on the superhero culture and Hollywood in general. And I will be checking out issue 2 of that one for sure. But why don't we go over to Mad Cave?
So from Mad Cave Studios, we have Dick Tracy, issue 8, Defenders of the Earth, issue 5, Spectrum, issue 4, Synap, issue 4. And we have 2 books, Nicholas, that we would like to discuss. I will kick us off here with a book that we've talked about before. From a writer that we've had on the show a few times. Dark Empty Void, issue 4. We've talked about this series a ton, and we had
Zach Kaplan on, yeah.
Thank you very much. I was going to say Zack Snyder. Nope, that's not the right person. Jesus, Joseph. It's late at night that we're recording this, folks. Zach Kaplan. So
If it's not 6:30 exactly, Joe just turns to a mess.
forget about it. I love this series. I loved this issue. This was my favorite issue yet. This has been a fairly emotional series, from the get-go. Themes of loss and depression and loneliness and anger and all that. And this was a very, very poignant issue. This was an issue of letting go. This was an issue of rediscovery. And this one just really hit. It really hit me. And as soon as I put it down or finished reading it, I just said to myself, "Wow, that was really, really, excellent stuff." And all the while, you're still getting a ton of suspense. There's some great action, in this issue as well, and it's really setting up for an epic finale. So, for those reading this series, you're going to love this particular issue. It really it's a tone setter for what's to come. And I just thought Zach really knocked it out of the park. This is tremendous.
Yeah, he's been really crushing it on this series. And speaking of crushing it too, Mad Cave, this isn't the only book from them that we wanted to touch on this week. We've obviously had I almost did TB. TB.
Tuberculosis.
TV Dandry, Tim Daniel and DB Andrew. We had him on the show a little while back, talk about their series, which Alex Sanchez is the illustrator for. Crush Depth, issue 1 of that. It's funny, we did that interview back in February, and of course, we try to do interviews with creators ahead of the FOC, so that for the first issue, so that way our listeners can go and add that to their pull list as soon as possible, make sure they get it, as opposed to like going to the comic shop the day the first issue comes out and wait, oh crap, like hopefully there's enough copies, because with Marvel, yeah, okay, they'll have a bunch for a first issue at some shops, but then with indie titles it's not always the case. And obviously you and I like talk all the time about how indies have the absolute best stories going right now, and Crush Depth is no exception. For me, something that I've been looking for more and more lately, as you and I find so many great horror stories. Again, we say it all the time, this is the golden age of horror comics. I find myself like wanting to read like a deep sea horror story, horror comic, and this scratches that itch. Deep Crush Depth absolutely provides that, and you have this great mix too of drama in this tight, uncomfortable space that is the submarine, all while you have this dark, vast, deep sea right outside. And just I love how Tim and DB are like balancing those two, and same for Alex too. Like everything feels so claustrophobic in the sub, but then when you look out into the ocean, where like there's so much other fucking shit going on, it's just like, oh god, like the chills that I get from like watching like a Nat Geo sort of thing about like deep water stuff. Like Alex provides that 100%. Like that's an itch that comics doesn't really scratch for me a lot. And it's not that's not a critique on the writers and artists. We just don't get that many stories. I think that is a tough thing to accomplish within comics, as opposed to like live action or like Nat Geo type stuff, like documentaries and whatnot. It's a hard thing to replicate with still images, but they accomplished that here, and I really enjoy that. So first issue of that is out this week. You and I have already read the first 2 issues. So I think you're gonna have to start the Fisherman. If you're not gonna get to work on a deep sea book, Fisherman, then I don't know if you even deserve that fucking nickname anymore.
Well, if TB Dandry are listening and you want to send us a 3rd issue, by all means. The fisherman gonna fish, baby.
Oh my god, I can't believe I fucking seriously. I was like, oh wait, no, not TB. God. Anyways, my goodness. Moving on. All right, I'll take us through the next few here, Joe. From IDW, we got Sonic the Hedgehog 77, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Nation issue 5, The Exorcism at 1600 pen issue 4, My Little Pony Case of the Missing Puff issue 1, Vault, we have Lilith issue 3, supposedly. Anyways, from Titan, we got Conan the Barbarian issue 19, Heat Seeker Combustion issue 4, The Loose End, issue 2. From Oni, we got Epitaphs from the Abyss, issue 9. Rick and Morty, Ricklemania, issue 2. Out of Alcatraz, issue 1. And then from Dynamite, we got Silverhawks, issue 2, which I know you like that first issue a lot.
Hold on. DB's watching. He commented, crush depth. DB, my man. My man.
Yeah,
I know you heard me, buddy. You got Nick's email. You got me on Twitter. You know what to do, buddy. All right.
Oh, man. Silverhawks, issue 2. The Herculoids, issue 2. Green Hornet, Miss Fury, issue 3. Red Sonja Attacks Mars, issue 1. It's funny when we do the solicits. So obviously we talk about like, you know, the books that are coming out throughout the course of the month. There are some times where I read a title like Red Sonja Attacks Mars, and like issue 1, like, haven't we fucking talked about that before? Like it throws me when I get a serious case of deja vu. Because obviously there are times we talk about, like, that's why I said that about Lilith. Like, obviously with League of Comic Geeks and Vault, there's some miscommunication or whatever. But it's like I feel we talk about books from there a lot when they're not out yet, or maybe they already have come out. So yeah, it just throws me when that shit happens. Anyways, moving on. Thundercats Lost, issue 1, which is by Ed Brisson, and the art is by Rafa Labosco. I'm sure you're going to be checking that one out.
Oh, you betcha, baby. You betcha. All things Thundercats in the Gilmore household. That is for damn sure. So to wrap things up, from Image and Skybound, we have Saga issue 72, The Walking Dead Deluxe issue 109. Little side note, Nicholas, I don't know if you've been watching TikTok. One of my favorite things on TikTok is John Gruden opening boxes that he gets from various either NFL team or not NFL teams, college football teams. This man can't open a box. I don't know how a grown man doesn't know how to open a box. I mentioned that because he talks a lot about The Walking Dead. He busts out his Rick Grimes knife, and it's a fucking Bowie knife essentially, and he's just tearing these boxes open. I'm surprised he's not destroying the merch. I don't know how he's not destroying the merch on the inside, but it cracks me up because he's such a character. And the fact that he doesn't know how to open a box, but he's constantly making Walking Dead references. I'm waiting for Coral to come out at some point, but I had to mention that because Walking Dead Deluxe, as I was watching a few days, like, got my Rick Grimes knives. Yeah, this is what Rick Grimes would use right here. Anyways,
I had not seen that. I'm actually curious how he would say Carl, because he wouldn't do it in a mocking tone, but he would
be like Carl, you know, yeah, Carl, you know, he would do
it
like in a John Gruden way.
Goodness.
Yeah, check it out. It is quite funny. The Sacrificers issue 15, Bug Wars issue 2. Loved it, Nicholas. This is such a great it's got that high, pulp fantasy feel to it, but it is vicious. It is it's fantastic. The Rockefellers issue 4, Rat City issue 12, Deadly Tales of the Gunslinger Spawn issue 4, Savage Dragon issue 276, Null Hunter issue 6, Adventureman Family Tree issue 1. This is written by Matt Fraction. I'm assuming art by Terry Dodson and Rachel Dodson. Dreamweaver Giant Size Special issue 1, and then there's 2 books, Nicholas, that you would like to discuss. Take it away, baby.
So it's been a while since we got an issue of The Deviant, and all this time we've been waiting for the final issue of this James Tynion Joshua Hickson joint. This is a book that I sniped on Joe, and because it's done, I may have, like, whenever we end up doing another mainline episode, this may have to move up just because I don't want to keep you waiting on one of your favorite writers. There are
this one.
Yeah, there are other books that, like, I haven't talked about. Helen of Windhorn, I think that's been next on my list to discuss, but like The Deviant may need to be that next one just because I don't want to keep you waiting on a James Tynion book. But the wait was very much well worth it. This was like a double-sized issue as well. I know some of the issues were longer than others, but this one was massive. This might have been a triple-sized issue. We talk a lot about dark stories on the show. Like, you and I like that, whether you're talking about horror stories or you're talking about, thrillery, horror adjacent type stuff, or dark in terms of like real themes that are getting touched upon in the story. And there are a lot of different ways you can do that. This is dark on the last of those, in the same vein of the last of those that I mentioned. But man, it's on another friggin' level, and it feels it's unlike anything James Tynion has done. I It feels like there's a personal nature to it as well, and that only adds more to the weight of the story. And I'll talk about it more in depth on the show, but I won't talk about like the ending. Obviously, there are a lot of twists as you might expect in this story, and there's one big one like in this final issue. It's just as we're looking to get answers and everything like that. It's still like, yeah, there's still a lot of fucking questions in this coming off of this big twist. This series was riddled with twists, and it is like when you get the chance to finally read this whole thing, Joe, you're gonna read it in one fucking sitting. It's so good and so compelling. I mean, what more could you expect from James Tynion?
Yeah, perfection. This is
Yep.
what I'm expecting.
Yeah, and I'm telling you though, it's very different from anything else you've read, and it's dark. But again, I'll talk about it at length on the show as soon as possible. And then uh, the Power Fantasy issue 7, of course, Kieran Gillen and Casper Wingard. And I don't know if I've said this to you in any capacity yet, but like obviously this was my one of my award winners for the floppies. Pretty much every week that we're getting review copies, like other than like the week after we get a review copy of the Power Fantasy, I'm like, are we getting a review copy of the Power Fantasy? Are we getting a review? Like I'm in my head, like I'm like it's like a dog with a bone. Like, am I getting this now? Am I getting it now? Like I just can't. Like this book has so much real estate in my head. I just cannot get enough of it. And I know I've talked in the past about how like when you introduced me to Die, and when I was reading Stephanie Hans and Kieran's story there, that was one where like needed to make sure I wasn't getting disturbed in any way while I was reading it. I I loved that series. I fucking loved that. It was so good. With the Power Fantasy, I make sure that no one fucking interrupts me. Now it's just my wife and me, so it's not that hard. And she's like, she doesn't want to talk to me half the time, anyways. No, but seriously, like, it's like I I know like that's we're both love reading. So like we know like sometimes you gotta just leave each other alone. Like I make sure nothing is gonna distract me when it's time for me to read the Power Fantasy. I fucking love it. And this was a very trippy issue. We're getting the start of the second Summer of Love arc, which like already off the rip, as you might expect, displaying a remarkable amount of potential. But I think what's the strength of the 7th issue of the Power Fantasy is I just went on and waxed poetic about how Etienne Lux is like my new favorite comic book character that we've gotten in the past, maybe past year, we'll say. But you maybe even extend it a little further if I did a power rankings. But you didn't get a lot of him in this issue. He's there, but you didn't get a lot of him. And he's a big part of what I love about this story. And I'd say like, yeah, maybe this might be one of my favorite, maybe not my favorite issue, but it's certainly like right there. Like I loved everything about it. The ending was outstanding. And it's just for you to not have my favorite character in this series in there. And I'm like, yeah, this is just as good as any of the other fucking issues. That says a lot about the strength of the story and how Kieran and Casper have been building out these other characters. So I'm going to keep talking about the Power Fantasy because I really do love it that much. And it's just I feel like it's as much as Etienne is the crutch that I lean on when I talk about that series. There's so much else that we're starting to see, and I really think we're starting to see other characters emerge. After issue 6, now in this issue as well, and I'm very excited to see how those characters develop. And then with in mind, like how is Etienne going to respond to all of these different things?
Let's go.
The Power Fantasy issue 7 out this week, and that is going to do it for us this week on What's New. Plenty of stuff to go pick up at your local comic shops this week. So make sure you guys go do that and make sure you're taking care of any other FOCs that we have been talking about. I think Buried Long, Long Ago is one that the FOC has not come and gone just yet. So you guys can get moving on that one. Outstanding horror book that we talked about. Make sure you listen to the Fireside Chats. Subscribe to the audio channels. We got that Chris Condon chat coming up on Monday. Not to timestamp things. But anyways, until next week, Joe, stay sexy.
Keep reading. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
4K.